What is up, my friends? How are we? You are very, very welcome along to tonight's late night agenda. I was reading a comment just before we started and it really did make me laugh. It's the first time I think I've been described as a sensible person because Steve said, looking forward to hear a sensible person telling the truth in contrast to what I've seen for the last 4 days. I don't know how sensible I'll be, Steve, but I'll give it a go, mate. I'll give it a go. Lovely to be here with you guys. I want to start off by saying a big thank you to Connor for filling in for the time I was away. He's now currently on his vacation, but it's okay. You've got me for the next few days anyway. Well, you've got me forever, hopefully. I don't know, maybe not forever, but certainly for the here and now. We've loads to get through tonight. Of course, I haven't had a chance to see you guys since the Mohamed Salah news dropped. I'm going to want to have a little chat about that. We'll talk about the game coming up at the weekend, of course, against Manchester City. We'll have a little chat about VAR and how 3/4 of football fans don't want anything to do with it. We'll run through some of the transfer stories and, of course, your topics, whatever you want to discuss, put it into the chat and I'll do my best to get there. As you can see, I've got a bit of a red mark in the middle of my forehead. It isn't sunburn, the rest of the face is, but that's actually just from sleeping in a weird way on the plane. So there we go. So yeah, how are we all doing? Hope we're all in good form this evening. The good news is the international break is almost over. The Reds back in action, of course, against Manchester City in the FA Cup on Saturday. Quick reminder for that one, folks. It's a 12:45 p.m. kickoff. So we'll be live an hour and 15 minutes beforehand. Yes, it's great to be back with you all. I missed you dearly. I really did. I was checking in to see how Connor was getting on with his videos, of course. He's gone from strength to strength. It's great to see. But I did miss you all. So it's lovely to be back here with you this evening. Right, Jonathan, how are you, sir? Evening. Hope you and the family had a great time. We did. It was lovely, thank you. Can't really complain, mate. It was exactly what I wanted. A nice, peaceful week away with the family. No injuries or anything this time, so yeah, can't really complain, sir. It was a lovely break. But you know, I get itchy feet after 4 or 5 days, and I just want to come home and get back to work. But yeah, really enjoyed it. Thank you for asking. Right, so Craig, how did the last episode of this season's Mock the Week go? I don't know. I haven't actually watched it yet. I know where you're going with that one, though. I wish I had Dara O'Brien's comedy timing talent and probably bank account, but no. I haven't got around to watching it yet, but I have started watching The Pit, actually. We watched that while we were away, but yeah, look, I'm so excited to be back. I was looking forward to this stream all day. I always miss you guys terribly when I'm away. And here comes the Irish team, said Mark. Yes, just out for the second half against North Macedonia. It was 0-0 there at half time. England, as I'm sitting here anyway, we're currently losing 1-0 to Japan in an international friendly. Here, I've got a question. Why are the Scottish team booing their own team again? Or the Scottish fans? Like, they qualified for the World Cup. It's a couple of friendlies, and honestly, I wouldn't care less about the friendlies if I was the Scottish fans. They have a World Cup to look forward to. And I'm no doubt they'll go over there and paint the town red. They're absolutely fantastic supporters when they travel to go and watch their team. But why the booing at home, folks? Come on, it's only a few international friendlies before the big one. Obviously, for Ireland, didn't go too well. We threw away that 2-goal lead over in Prague. But, you know, it was probably bonus territory for us anyway. Shame that they couldn't make it to the World Cup. Would have loved to have seen so many Irish people heading over to cheer on the boys in green. But unfortunately, it wasn't meant to be. Right, I was at the game. I was shocked, said Leon. Which game was this, Leon, mate? The Irish game, or because I met quite a few football fans, actually, quite a few Irish football fans in the airport when I was on my way over to Lanzarote. A lot of them were flying out to head over to Prague, and I was chatting to one group of lads that had a really long trip ahead of them. They were going into Romania, and then from Romania, I think they were getting a train into Prague. So, you know, they were getting there however they could, and you could see there was loads of Irish fans inside that stadium, and just a shame that it didn't go our way in the end. But look, it is what it is. Feels like the FA are picking the England team. Tuchel is Southgate 2.0. I don't really know what the England team is for tonight, to be honest. I'd seen just the scoreline, mate, but I hadn't had a look at the team. Honestly, though, I wouldn't stress about it. You know, England are going to go over there in good spirits. They've got a really good squad, and they could go far in this tournament. So let's wait and see what happens with it. But for us, we have a lot to talk about. I guess I'd like to kick off the show, if that's okay, discussing the Mohamed Salah situation, because we haven't had a chance to talk about that. I know Connor did a video on it. I did a short on it. But I really wanted to just hear what you guys think about it and, of course, give you my take on it. I think the one big surprise thing for me was to find out that he was going to be going for free. Now, I'm sure that the club have ran the numbers on this one, and It makes sense to everybody involved, and look, I'm cool with that as well. It is at least now clear to us what is happening at the end of the season with Mo. I know some people think he maybe should have left it a little bit later. I was reading a few comments from the likes of John Barnes and that, questioning the timing of it. For me, I'm actually glad that he came out and said it, because I want to try and appreciate, enjoy, and make the most of every game that we have left with Mo. It obviously hasn't been the season that he and we would have hoped for, but his time at the club has been nothing short of sensational. So, if it's the best move for everybody that he moves on, and the club are happy to basically just tear up the contract with 1 year to go, saves Liverpool about 20 million quid a season, and it gives Mohamed Salah every opportunity then to go and find whatever next move works for himself and his family. That's the one part that was a bit of a surprise. Like, when we talked about Mohamed Salah maybe departing in the summer, a lot of the time we were talking about the potential of 30 to 50 million quid. But like I've said, I'm sure the club would have run the numbers, and I'm sure it has to make sense to both sides. So if the club are happy with it, if it's not going to really knock the L financials for us, look, he deserves the right to pick his own future. He's been an incredible servant to our football club, and anybody who's lucky enough to take in these last few games with Mo, enjoy them. It's gonna be an emotional end to the season. So let me know your thoughts on the whole Salah situation. Of course, typical my luck. I go away on holidays and it drops the very night I'm on the plane, but I'm glad that we know what's happening now. We can start to then look towards the future. I was reading a couple of pieces today that were suggesting that we're going to see some variation, and I don't really know how this will line up, but Wirtz, Ekitike and Isak all playing together next season. At least that's what a lot of the reports I was reading, but it doesn't really make much sense if you're talking about these three, though. Where are we going to get the width from? And, are we going to see a change of formation, perhaps? Let's wait and see. But transfer links are starting to heat up as well. Yan Diamonde, that one's looking pretty good. I'm not, when I say pretty good, sorry, I don't mean pretty good like it's going to happen, but I mean those links are seriously there. And Jurgen, I think, urging Liverpool as well to get that deal done. Great to see Jurgen back for the charity game. I did actually watch the charity game when I was on holidays, and I don't know about everybody else, but oh god, it brought back memories, didn't it? Seeing Jurgen Klopp there on the sideline, it really brought home what an icon that man is. So that was good to see. Thiago out there doing his bits as well. That was incredible. Him and Stevie G had some. It just made you wonder, like, what would it have been like if those two had played together at Liverpool, even for just the season. It would have been incredible. But yeah, it was great. Full house as well inside Anfield, which was brilliant for the foundation. So well done to everybody that attended. Money going to great causes as always. So delighted with that one. It was great to see him back, said Lee Cole. It was lovely, and it really made me realise how lucky we were to have had Jurgen firstly, but also how much I miss him. I really do miss that presence on the sideline. He just has an aura about him, doesn't he, Jurgen? And it was lovely to see him there as well. Full house, Borussia Dortmund, his two clubs that were there. It was a good afternoon all around. Is there any truth that Liverpool are going to get a 10-point deduction for breaking the fair play rules? No, absolutely none. We're not even in territory of potentially breaking the FFP or PSR or, I don't know if you're talking about the UEFA or the Premier League ones, but no, absolutely not. Newcastle, they could be in a spot of bother, according to a lot of reports doing the rounds. They could be in for a hefty fine from UEFA because they sold St. James's Park to themselves, but that isn't allowed to count anymore. After Chelsea did it, UEFA made sure that wasn't going to be able to be done again and still come into the accounting side of it against their FFP. So, yeah, Newcastle could be in a spot of bother. And dare I say it, folks, are we going to be in for another Newcastle player this summer? I mean, I don't know. I've been thinking about this one. I wouldn't mind another summer bantering with the Geordies, but who that player might be, well, look, we'll leave that one for another day. George, how are you, bro? Said Craig, New York was great. Hope your holiday was good and relaxing. Good to see you back. Quick question. When you research players, do I have tips? I use a lot of different things, so I probably should explain this a bit because it's probably something that's going to be asked quite a lot, George. So for me, when I'm looking to research a player, obviously you do the usual stuff. You go on, you look at clips that you see on YouTube and stuff like that. You go in and you look at some scouting reports and you look at statistics. But one of the things that I'm kind of fortunate in is when I get my news, gossip, transfer stuff, I don't really have many relationships with journalists these days. So a lot of my relationships that I've made over the years are with minor agents, agents of much lower tier than the Premier League clubs, but they also are able to give me some good insight and some good areas to look when I'm looking over these players, to things that I might miss out on, specifically if there's anything behind the scenes not football related that I should know about. So that's one of the things that I do. Then of course, like I said, mate, I go onto YouTube, watch clips like everybody else, look into the data. But you also have to ask, is this player that you're looking at going to be able to come into the Liverpool team and do what they're doing in the league that they're in? And this is where I find Yan Diamonde really fascinating, because the more I watch of him, the more I'm convinced that he'd just be a perfect fit for us. If I was, going to say to you what my dream summer would be in that regard, Yan Diamonde and Michael Elise, that would be absolutely heaven on earth. But do I think it's possible? Not the Elise one. I hope it is, but I'm not going to hold my breath for it. The Anthony Gordon thing, look, it's going to raise its head again. I see there's a lot of people on social media today talking about Anthony Gordon, and there really is a split in the Liverpool fan base. Some want absolutely nothing to do with him, and then others think that he'd be a natural fit. I'm probably in the natural fit camp on this one, but the thing for me that it falls down on is the price tag, because I just don't think Anthony Gordon is worth what Newcastle would demand, which is probably upwards of 90 to 100 million pound. I just don't think he's worth that much, and I think there are better players out there. You've got the homegrown aspect, of course, as well. The fact that he's a Liverpool fan, the fact he's Premier League tested. But yeah, this is one. I don't remember many other links that have really divided a fan base as much as Anthony Gordon has. Alan said, "Hey Craig, hope you had a good holiday. Nice to see you back." Thank you, Alan. Appreciate you, mate. It's lovely to be back. I missed everybody while I was away, but I stayed away. Didn't do any work, which was good. I had to do a little short the first night when I heard about the Mohamed Salah situation, but apart from that, I kind of just spent time with the family, chilled out, had some nice food, and just relaxed for the week. It was lovely. Craig, I honestly didn't like some fans getting behind Marco Rossi against Slot. In which context? Sorry, I don't know what you mean by against Slot. I've no idea, mate. Look, if there's one thing I realised when I was away, and I wasn't going to bring this up, by the way, I wasn't going to talk about the manager at all, but seeing as now you've brought it up, one thing I realised when I was away was I'm even more adamant that he's not the right guy. I just feel it in my bones that he isn't a good fit. But I do see that they're still trying to lay the groundwork for potentially finding a way to keep him. At least that's the kind of vibe I'm getting from a lot of the articles I'm reading. I just don't think he's the guy. Now, it's going to be a big month for us. We've got Manchester City on Saturday in the FA Cup. Then we've got Paris Saint-Germain in the Champions League home and away. So I think whatever does happen, we'll have a better understanding over the next month of how it's going to play out for Arne Slot. I'm not going to lie though, I don't see us beating Manchester City on Saturday, and I feel bad saying it, and I really do. And I was doing out my prediction for it, going through my starting 11 and stuff. I just can't realistically come on, record a video and say I think we're going to beat them. Because how can I? On our day, can we beat them? Absolutely. We can beat anybody on our day. But you have to look at our form coming into it. And I just feel like it would be just blind optimism for me to come on and think, yeah, we're going to go to the Etihad and beat Manchester City in the FA Cup. I just don't see it happening. Because the results before we went into the international break, again, weren't what we would have hoped for. The style of football still isn't there. So I'm nervous about it, because the PSG games in particular, they're ones that I'm really, really looking forward to. And I really hope the lads lift themselves through it. Because if they do, even in spite of the managerial situation, we could do it. It's possible we could do that over two legs. But it's also possible that we could have our asses handed to us. And I certainly don't want that to be the case. So, just to get back to what the gentleman asked a moment ago about Marco Rossi. Sorry, I didn't realise that he was the Hungarian national team coach. So he addressed comments from Arne Slot, who suggested the players should avoid playing 180 minutes across two friendlies. I agree with Arne on that, by the way. Look, let's be honest about this. We could have done what other clubs have done. How many Arsenal players, as an example, either didn't go on international duty or came home from international duty early? I think it's something like 8 or 9. So I understand that Arna doesn't want these guys playing 180 minutes into what are meaningless friendlies. They weren't World Cup playoffs or anything like that. So if I was in Arna's shoes, I'd have asked the same thing. I would, because there's a lot happening. And let's not forget as well, it is in Hungary this season, the Champions League final. So you've got 2 Hungarian national team superstars in Milos Kerkez and Dominik Szoboszlai. They'll want to try and get to Budapest to play in that Champions League final. So it's probably in everybody's interest to make sure that they're not burnt out and they've got the best chance possible to get themselves over there. And look, I don't think we'll be in the Champions League final, but I certainly do side with Arna on this one. If I was in his shoes, I'd be having a word as well, hoping that you don't get to play them for the full 180 minutes over 2 games, because you're not going to learn anything from it. Let's be honest. You know what they're about. These aren't high-profile games, so yeah, I don't see what any of the fuss is about. Other managers have done it many, many times, and like I said, if I was in his shoes, I'd do the same. The fact he flew right after the game was wrong. I think these things, Jaden, from my understanding, mate, I think these things are planned out in advance. Now, it still doesn't look great. I think it's a bit tone deaf, but it is what it is. If he sat down with the club at the end of last season and said, look, I'm going to need a break here, here, and here, and the club agreed with it, it is what it is. But it's certainly not endearing him more to people, is it? That he didn't stick around. I'm more concerned with the results, though, to be honest with you. If he comes back and we get a result, great, against Manchester City. But if we don't, and results aren't as we'd hope over the next month, it's just going to be another stick that people use to beat him with. And understandably as well. Silver Bear, how are you, dude? Awesome, you're back, Craig. You've been sorely missed. Thank you, sir. I didn't think I had been. I actually seen people commenting saying Connor should take over the channel, and I'm sitting there going, fuck you. Not happening. No dice. This is my domain. Look, Connor does a great job with the videos, but this channel's built off live content, and that's where I come into it. So yeah, that was an interesting read. But look, I'm so happy to see Connor coming into his own with these videos. He has his own unique style that he brings to it, and I very much enjoy it. But this is my channel. I'm the host, and I'll be the one doing the live content. Thank you very much. Right. Welcome back, Craig. Was the Legends game on Saturday. Sat right behind the Annie Road goal. Incredible experience. Thiago still has it. Yeah, Thiago looked absolutely incredible in that game, as did Steven Gerrard. It really does make you wonder, doesn't it? What if, what if, what if? But glad you had a good time, mate. I seen some people in our Discord group were exchanging photos about where they were sitting and stuff inside the stadium. But look, it just makes you incredibly proud, doesn't it? As a Liverpool fan, to see over 60,000 people in there for a Legends game, raising money for a good cause. Yeah, it was really, really cool to see. Not many clubs will be able to do that. And for Liverpool to do it again, it's just brilliant. And it speaks to the fan base and the respect, of course, that they have for Kenny, for Jurgen, and of course for the LFC Foundation. Motorhome Dreamer, how are you, dude? Said, morning. Good to see you back, Craig. Dreading Saturday now. Yeah, I'm kind of nervy about Saturday as well. But I'm trying to think about it this way. I'm not expecting much, so anything that we might get would definitely be a bonus. That's the way I'm trying to think about it. Because in my mind, I'm not really expecting a win. So if we get something out of it, great. But I think whether this season is a failure or some type of a form of a success will come down to the Champions League. It's these 2 ties against Paris Saint-Germain that I think are going to be interesting. And yeah, I'm already nervous about these games. I'm not going to lie. I'm really nervous, particularly the first one. At Anfield, you'd hope the boys would be up for it. The place is going to be absolutely bouncing. But, what they did to Chelsea, it worries me. Because if we're not at 100%, if we're not really up for that game, that could be a long night. Derek, how are you, sir? Lovely to see you. I was going to call you. I was saying, how are you, Derek? And then I was going to say something else, and then I tongue-tied myself, Derek. But anyway, thank you, sir. So, Craig, good to have you back. Is your information on Slot still the same? Also, Slot never came out about Mo leaving. Klopp was even talking about Mo. So I haven't really spoke much with people since I've been away, to be honest, Eric. So my understanding is that things still are as they are. I think it's going to come down to the Champions League. If he can look, I feel like there's an appetite at the club to try to justify this season as one that they understand the failure to a certain extent because of situations that have come up over the course of the season. Obviously, what happened with the HUGO. I just don't buy into it. And I keep saying this over and over again. We either are a club that has standards or we aren't. We can't pick and choose. And this season hasn't been what anybody expected. And of course, there are reasons for that. But it's just not been good enough. And it's, every time we think we've turned a corner, unfortunately, we're back where we were. Now, if a miracle happens and he pulls the Champions League out, like I've said all the way through, he keeps his job. But I just don't think he will. And even at that, I still would fire him if I was in charge, because I just don't think he's the right man for the job. And it goes deeper than just the footballing style. It'll be interesting to see, though, how much extra lift the next few games give the lads, knowing that, Mohamed Salah will be saying goodbye at the end of the season. It'll be interesting to see if that provokes a response from the players as well. And from Mo, of course. Now, I did say to you guys a couple of months ago that it looked to me like each home game now for Mohamed Salah, he was trying to make the most out of it, trying to take it all in, trying to enjoy the experience. And I pointed it out to you guys a while ago that it was kind of giving me vibes that I thought, oh, maybe this could be the summer. But it was still a little bit surprising to see it confirmed as early as it was. Oh, Jeremy Frimpong's just got injured. So Keane just showed me a post from Anfield sector saying Jeremy Frimpong comes on and has to go straight off injured after 13 minutes. This is absolutely what we don't need, because we all know how this one plays out if Jeremy's injured. We're looking at Dominic Szoboszlai probably being shoehorned into right back again, and I don't want this. We can't have this coming into these big games. We need Dominic Szoboszlai in his preferred position, in his better position. So, hopefully, I don't know. Hopefully Joe Gomez might be available. I don't know. I'm even trying to still figure out if Alisson's definitely going to be confirmed for the weekend, because there's still a little bit of uncertainty about when Alisson will actually be back. And, how many times have we heard these, it's nothing serious, but then it turns out to be a month with, not Alisson in particular, but with Liverpool players. And yeah, we definitely don't need an injury. That's the one thing when the boys go off in their international breaks that I think we all keep our fingers crossed for. No injuries. And with that position, we don't really have much wiggle room. So, I want Jeremy Frimpong there for those PSG games. So fingers crossed. And again, I don't know what the injury is because I haven't seen it yet. But fingers crossed it's nothing too serious. Dark Ruby said, why couldn't we do an Arsenal and pull all our big players out of the stupid international break? I'm not disagreeing, dude. I said it earlier on in the stream. I would have, looked to have done something similar. If Hungary, let's say, had real World Cup playoffs, fair enough. You'd certainly be saying the boys need to play. They need to play all of it. They need to make sure that they give their country the best chance of getting to the World Cup. But that wasn't the case here. These were a couple of silly friendlies. And I very much believe that we should have probably been a bit snide about it. Let's be honest, it goes on. To say otherwise would just be naive. And do I for 1 second think that all the Arsenal players that were pulled out are really injured? Do I fuck? No, not a chance. Jacob said, England without Kane is AA without Craig. It ain't working when we need Craig. There you go. Well, I won't be able to fill in for Harry Kane, unfortunately. I just don't have the goal-scoring ability. So, actually, you've kind of reminded me of something, but let me just read this very kind super chat. Welcome back, Craig. Flo was brilliant for Germany. Thank you for bringing that up, because my dumb ass would have forgot to speak about that. So, on that, a bit coincidental, isn't it? That for us, not really showing the same level of quality that he does with Germany. Why might that be? Well, for me, I think it comes down to the way we're playing football versus the way Germany are playing football and the confidence that he feels in a Germany shirt. So I'd love him to carry this back into the Liverpool team, but I'll be honest, all it made me do again was think, this is another underperforming player under the manager. Yet another one. And I can't be the only one that thought that, right? When they seen that Verts goal. And by the way, what a goal. Oh my days. What a goal that was. Even the missus was gobsmacked by the finish. And that's the first time the missus has ever been gobsmacked by the finish. Yeah, so incredible goal, and I hope he can bring that form back to us. But, I can't be the only one that thought to himself, oh, is this a coincidence? That, I'm not saying he hasn't been great for us because he's getting better, but he looks so much more confident in the Germany shirt. Even looking at the quality of the strike that he hit, we've seen him kind of flatter to the sieve, or what's what I'm looking for? Flatter to the sieve? We've seen a few false dawns. That's probably an easier way of putting it. But look, I've always backed Florian Wirtz, and I always will, because I think he's a wonderful footballer. And it was good to see people actually go, oh, okay, this kid is a baller, because he's come in for a little bit of flack from people who were very quick to want to write him off. Scratching Claimer said, clubs who suffer tragedies usually struggle. Besides us, Norwich and Leicester are examples, so I'm happy we aren't scraping for relegation or survival. I mean, of course, look, it's such a sensitive subject to discuss when you're talking about the loss of a player. And before I do, actually, before I forget, I just want to say thank you to Grizzly for gifting 10 memberships, because I'll miss that if I don't do it now. So thank you so much, Grizzly. You're really kind. To get back to your post, mate, look, this is such a hard subject to discuss, because you've got to balance the sensitivities of a very difficult situation with a bit of common sense as well. So I just don't buy it. I just don't buy that that's enough of a reason to... I find it disrespectful, not from you, but when we talk about this subject, because if things were going well for us, what would we be talking about? We'd be talking about doing it in his memory, doing something to remember this in his honour. And when things don't go well, it's very easy for people to then say, well, it's because of X, Y, and Z. Ultimately, I think the failings this season have been multifaceted. Yes, of course, there's that situation. Then you've got new players coming into the club, and them new players are coming into a very unique, strange dressing room after what happened. And then they're trying to find those, they don't know the mood of the dressing room. They don't know the relationships with the players. They don't know when to joke, when they can joke. So that in itself, yes, was going to be a difficult situation. Then on top of that, Trent left, and of course, Mo hasn't been having the greatest of seasons, and new players are bedding in. But ultimately, I just keep coming back to this, dude. We're far better than we're showing. We just are. I find it very difficult to bring in Wirtz, Ekitike, Isak, Frimpong, Kirkes, and start looking at it like we're some hard luck story. Ultimately, we've had another pathetic title defence. And that wasn't the aim coming into the season. That wasn't the aim after the first 5 games. So I just don't accept that as an excuse. I just don't. Like I said, it's an easy out, and these things happen. We all lose loved ones, we all lose friends, and of course it impacts different people in different ways. But I just don't like using it as an excuse, because ultimately the reasons we haven't succeeded enough this season have been more than just one thing. It's been a lack of confidence from some players. It's been new players bedding in. It's been Arnott and his tactics. It's been the change in the league and the style of the play in the league, being a bit more defensive and set-piece minded. Yeah. So, like I said, I understand where you're coming from. I respect it. I just think to be still talking about the impacts of that in March is just a little bit far-fetched for me. How are you feeling for PSG next week? Excited and nervous, because if we play to our best potential, if we show up, if we harness the energy of Anfield for the return leg, and if we can get a decent result over there, we know anything's possible. But it's impossible to predict which Liverpool we're going to see, because we don't really know. Is it going to be the one that was, struggling for points? Like, Igor Tudor's been sacked by Spurs after 7 games, and the only team he got a point off was us. at Anfield. That's not good enough. It just isn't. To then drop points again, like we did in the games before the international break, it just hasn't been good enough. To, not be able to beat some relegation candidate teams. 1 point in 9. The season's just been a frustrating one that honestly I can't wait to see the back of. I just want a fresh start in the summer and to go again. If we can win something this year, brilliant, but I'm not overly optimistic of it. Right, to finish my thought on Mo, run out of letters. I think the fallout with Slot and him talking to the press was all planned to give him an excuse to leave for free. So, look, how do I address this one? The leaving for free part is obviously something that the club are comfortable with. And I don't think it's because the leaving for free bit, I don't think that's because of what happened with Arne. I think that's just what the club deem is best for everybody concerned. Liverpool save 20 million quid in wages, and Mohamed Salah gets to decide his own future. And I think that's fine. But the other part of it that you were talking about there, which was, 1 second, dude. The fallout with Slot. Look, that was contrived. Yeah, he knew what he was doing when he did that. But I guess the question that none of us know the answer to is, who was he speaking for when he said that? Was he just talking about him, Mohamed Salah, and being thrown under the bus? Or did he feel like he needed to speak on behalf of his teammates? And we don't know the answer to that one. I've always felt like that wasn't really put to bed. The AFCON was a natural break and it gave everybody a bit of space. Then he came back and, we had a few decent results, so it wasn't really a talking point too much, but never really felt like it was settled. And I just hope it didn't come down to any type of ultimatums. And I doubt it did, to be fair. I doubt it did, but I just hope it didn't. Wayne said, Craig, I can see Slot still manager next season. I don't think it's possible to say definitively one way or the other, Wayne, yes or no. I could give you my opinion, I can give you what I'm hearing, but I can also, and I said it at the start of the stream, I have to acknowledge that I've seen a lot of groundwork being put in to try to keep him. And I think we need to look at this situation holistically and think, what is going to happen with Edwards? What is going to happen with Hughes? What is going to happen with Slot? Because failure has been huge this year. And it isn't just all on Arne. It isn't. The recruitment needs to be looked at and needs to be held to account. But what worries me the most of what I've seen is a little bit of backtracking about the summer coming up. A few weeks ago, it was if Liverpool don't get the Champions League, it'll have a big knock-on effect on the summer window. Now it's, Liverpool have already replaced Mohamed Salah by bringing in Isak, Ekitike, Wirtz, and that they can just fuck right off with, to be honest with you. If FSG are going to try and pull this stroke again, no, not having it. They need to bring in what they need to bring in, which is a central defensive midfielder, a centre-back, maybe 2, and at least 2 wingers. That's the bare minimum this summer. And that's on top of maybe trying to fill out the squad a little bit more. And it's been really interesting to sit back and watch how people have talked about this situation over the past month or two, particularly around the transfer window. Because 1 minute we're being linked to everybody and sundry, and the next minute it's kind of back to being poor old Liverpool with no money to spend. And it'll come down to the owner's ambition again. Because for me, if you're an ambitious club, you want to win, and you want to win now. You don't win the league, fall backwards, and make excuses for it. So my big concern is, how hungry are we for success? And that's been something that I think I've asked a lot over the years, because it's really difficult to see you have success and fall away and then have to build back up to it again. We've had 2 very poor title defences, and I don't know why. But I know that it can't go on because these players are better than we're seeing. Jaden Thomas said, breaking, Mo Salah signs 20 more years at Liverpool. Yeah, no, he didn't know, mate. What was this one? 1 sec. but they put the ticket prices up. Yeah, I kind of... How do I... This is a subject that I always struggle to discuss, because is there a cost of living crisis? Yes. Do I understand that people are being priced out of football? Yes. But we have to also talk about something else. The two-tiered level of fandom. Because there's only ever complaints when it comes to the chosen few and their extra quid here per match. What about every other fan that has to pay through the nose for hospitality seats to try and take in a game, or to pay ridiculous costs with travel agents to try and go over? There's never any pushback for those fans, is there? It's like, we're all right, lads, so fuck the rest of you. So I find it very difficult to keep having sympathy, because £9 match tickets are still available for some local kids. Prices are going up by what? A quid a game? 180 a game? Something like that, after no increases for 3-4 years, something like that. And it feels like every time the top reds suffer, we all suffer. And I'm quite frankly fucking sick of it, because they only have an interest in looking after themselves. And I'm sick of pussyfooting around this subject. They don't give a shit about the rest of us. They only care about themselves and their sense of entitlement. And that's just the way it is. And to say anything else, I'd just be being disingenuous. They don't care about the rest of us. They don't care about anybody else. Because our money's important, but then we get belittled. Then we get snubbed. Where's the concern for everybody else? Where's the concern for everybody that has to pay all those hospitality prices because they've no other way to go to a game? It isn't there. So, it is what it is. You know, you can't expect things to be the same price forever. And I totally understand it. I do. I just have no patience left to have sympathy, because they don't give a fuck about the rest of us. So, you know, remember Jurgen Klopp's last game, protest. Lost last European game. Protest, lost. We still talk about it now. So, yeah, they don't have any concern about looking out for anybody but the chosen few, the top reds. And that's just honest. You know, it's a subject that doesn't get spoken about enough. But they don't look out for all Liverpool fans. They look out for a select version of Liverpool fans. That's just the way I see it. Sorry, I don't really have anything else to add to that, because that's the way I see it. I've seen this for years now with Liverpool fans. You know, it's they only care about the local fans. That's it. You know I'm right. They're gonna hate me for this, but I couldn't give a fuck, because they don't give a fuck about me. They don't give a fuck about you. They care about looking after themselves. They're the ones with access to season tickets. They're the ones that feel a sense of entitlement that they should be able to go all the time. So, you know, welcome to the real world. Sorry, but not sorry. Like I said, I understand there's a cost of living crisis, but it is what it is. Man up or don't go, because nobody's putting a gun to your head to go to all these games. You don't have a divine right to go to all these games. You're lucky enough to be in a position to have season tickets, to be able to access them, to have them passed down to generations. The rest of us in our lifetime will never have that opportunity. So, you know, like I said, if you want to look out for fans, look out for all fans. But they don't. They only look out for themselves. They only look out for the locals. They only look out for the top reds. They only look out for the chosen few, and the rest of us can go fuck yourself. That's the way it is. Hey Craig, good to have you back. How was the holiday? And Spurs have a new manager, unlike us, still stuck with Slot. The Spurs thing, look, fuck Roberto De Zerbi and his Mason Greenwood apologising. Sorry. You know, it is, again, I'm not going to pussyfoot around it. And fair play to Spurs fans, by the way, because there has been pushback on this. And I absolutely credit them for that. But each to their own. I wouldn't want De Zerbi anywhere near Liverpool personally. But will he keep Spurs up? I guess we're going to find out. Giant Gift said, Craig, I have a hard time criticising FSG after dropping 500 million. I also think they're very aware of the thoughts of their fan base. I haven't criticised FSG here, mate. I'm criticising the people who are, again, looking out for themselves and nobody else. That's my criticism here. I think regarding ticket price, look, I get the point they're trying to make on both sides. I understand that the club had 700 million quid in revenue and they feel like the extra couple of quid in the tickets isn't going to make or break FSG and the club's finances. I absolutely understand that. But like I said, I find it very difficult to have sympathy for people who don't give a shit about us. They care about themselves. That's it. And look, people don't talk about this because they're afraid to talk about it. I'll talk about it. They don't give a shit about you or me. Whenever things aren't right inside Anfield, we're the first ones to be blamed. Travelling fans, day trippers, always our fault, always. So, suck it up. Don't want the tickets, give them back. It's like everything else. You wouldn't go into the petrol station and start fucking complaining. It is what it is. Stuff goes up, it gets a bit more expensive. I don't know. Have a pint less. Drop a subscription service. I don't know what to say. If you can't afford to go to the games anymore, well, give up your ticket. Somebody else will take it. And I know the argument is going to be, but we're the ones who put the banners on the clock, blah, blah, blah. I know, I get all of that, because we're sick of I've heard it every fucking year since I've supported Liverpool. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. I've very little sympathy for people who have no sympathy for the rest of us. Do you see Harvey Elliott returning if Xabi comes in? Does Chiesa stick around because he's on the cheap? I think, I don't know what happens with Harvey Elliott, to be honest with you, Grizzly. Chiesa, I think, goes. I think he has to go at this point. It hasn't worked out. And it hasn't worked out for him, hasn't worked out for us. And every season that he's here and not really playing, it's another 6 or 7 million quid out the door. So, yeah. Look, what do you guys, I've been honest and answered, giving you my take on the season tickets. What do you guys think about the season tickets? What do you guys think about it? Because that's the one I was looking for, Christopher. It was flattered to deceive, sir. Thank you. That was the one I was looking for. Yeah, what do you guys think about it? Because I know locals who go to the game who have season tickets, and they certainly are feeling the pinch in life like everybody else. And I'm not trying to deny that there's a cost of living crisis out there. Absolutely is. And it's tough. It's tough for families, but football is, I won't say a luxury, but it's certainly not a divine right. Have you noticed our goals never from open play? Yes, but it's weird though, because we were talking about being shit at set pieces a while ago, and now we've got a little bit better at them, but I just don't think we're attacking enough. And I don't think Arno will push back and say we're creating a lot of chances. I just think we're just not fast enough in wide areas. I just don't think we're attacking enough. I think he hasn't found the right balance yet. Apparently the Athletic are saying it was 3 windows and 1 spending last summer. Look, I feel like I'm coming out firing tonight, but I don't really know what to say about the Athletic that won't get me in trouble. They're just another mouthpiece for the club. And I don't even mean that in a complimentary way. They're just full of shit a lot of the time. With a straight face, Pearce told us we weren't looking for a goalkeeper. David Ornstein told us the club was up for sale. I don't know what to say about it. They just print whatever shite the club want them to print. That's my view on it. And when the Athletic first came in, I had a lot of respect for them and I was very excited by the prospect of it. But over the course of time, it's just turned out to be another outlet that print any old shite that the club send their way. And again, they must know some of this stuff isn't right. And I'm quite simply just fed up of it all. I'm fed up of all of them looking all of us fans in the eye and lying to us. Or pushing a narrative. So if they want to go with the last summer was 3 summers and 1, fair enough. But it was catch up for the 3 summers you fucked up before that. Or the 3 windows. So let's not make out like Liverpool have been spending money every year for a long time. Liverpool haven't spent enough money, and then this summer finally start spending money. So to now start saying this was true, it's just bullshit again. And nobody wants to be back here. We don't want to be back here talking about, will they spend? Where's the money, John? Do what you're supposed to do, which is build a club up to be one that competes to win every trophy. Yes, do it within your own means. But, you don't get to do this once every 5 years to come in and drop a lot of money. You want to be competitive. The revenues are rocketing up. Invest that back into the team. Yeah. Look, I don't really have much time. I'll look at the Athletic for transfer stuff, perhaps. But when it comes to them holding Liverpool to account for stuff, it doesn't exist. It just doesn't. They'll get the little whisper in their ear, from Hughes or Edwards. They have their little clicks and they push the narrative that they want pushed. And again, there's no critiquing, there's no pushback, there's no proper journalism. It's just turned into another PR machine for the club. Shane said, still sickened about Thursday night. Sad to think Seamus Coleman will never play the World Cup. Tonight could be his last game in green. Some player for Ireland and Everton. Best 60 grand ever spent. Look, Seamus Coleman has been an incredible servant to Irish football. An incredible bargain for Everton from the money that they paid from, I think, Sligo Rovers, if my memory's right. But yeah, an incredible servant for the boys in green. And if this is to be his last game with an Ireland shirt, I hope he gets the send-off that he deserves. And, like I said, deserves every bit of respect that he gets. Even, he's an Everton player, but he's an incredible player and a great servant to not just Irish football, but football. Jacob said, I think stadiums will go empty if ticket prices keep on increasing. People would rather watch on TV. It's much cheaper, in my opinion. It's a tough one because football is in a bit of a weird place now. And it is becoming more and more commercially driven. And there's too much Americanization of English football. And I don't mean that to be a knock to our American viewers, but I think they'll understand where I'm coming from with it. You're starting to see personal seat licenses. You're starting to see more and more hospitality offerings. You're just starting to see it becoming less and less of a working class sport. So to go back to the protester on the ticket prices, if you want to protest about ticket prices, cool, but protest for all of them, not just the ones that affect you. Talk about them right across the board that affect all Liverpool fans. And then we'll have that conversation. When was the last time we had a full squad depth in all areas? I don't know. It's been probably non-existent. Like, was it the last game we lined up and it was the first time that team had played together this season? And it was like some variation of Salah right, Wirtz left, Ekitike through the middle, Maka, Grav, Dom, Frimpong, Kanade, Virgil, Kirkes. I think it was the first time this season that 11 being together, and that was crazy. I couldn't believe that. So I wanted to talk to you guys about a few things. Let's start off with VAR, if that's okay, because I read a piece on Sky Sports that said 3/4 of Premier League fans are against VAR, according to an FSA survey. Let me just read this out to you and then we'll have a chat about it, if that's all right. 3/4 of Premier League fans are against the use of VAR. A survey by the Football Supporters Association has found. Nearly 8,000 supporters, just over half of whom attend more than 15 home games a season, took part in the poll to assess the attitudes to technology. The results demonstrate just how unpopular it has become, with more than 97% of respondents opposing the statement that VAR makes watching football more enjoyable. Think about that. 97% of people, the 8,000 people that took part in this survey, said they opposed the statement that VAR makes football more enjoyable. So only 3% of people there, at most, think it's more enjoyable. On top of that, they said while more than 90% disagree that it has made the match-going experience better. Now, look, I haven't had much experience of VAR inside Anfield, but I did get it for the United game this season. And I do understand any frustrations fans have about the in-stadium experience. It's not good enough. It isn't good enough for the fans inside the stadium, and VAR needs to be improved in that regard. Asked if they support the use of VAR in football, 75.7% said they do not. But here's the thing, they won't give a fuck. The authorities won't care what you think, what the fans think, because they've already spent the money. VAR's here to stay. We've been told that many times, despite the fact that the real stakeholders in the game, the fans, don't want it. 3/4 of them don't like it, but they don't care. They'll just carry on regardless. The time taken to reach decisions remains a source of great frustration. Fewer than 3% of those polled agree that decisions are reached in a reasonable amount of time. And an overwhelming majority do feel that they are now being made more quickly, that they are now being made more quickly despite efforts that they are not being made more quickly, despite efforts being made to speed up the process. Then they said that more than 90% also feel like the technology has removed the spontaneous joy of goal celebrations. Now, this I have to say I agree with. We've all been on watchalongs together, and we've all wanted to celebrate or have celebrated a goal, and then you see the words on the screen that makes your heart just sink. You know, VAR being looked at, or something being looked at by VAR, and it just makes your heart drop. And it does take away that natural spontaneity, because we've talked about this so many times. You know, you see the FA Cup early rounds or the League Cup, you just look for the linesman's flag. If the linesman's flag isn't up, goal stands, happy days. And the argument of it's not VAR that's the problem, it's the people that's the problem, I don't think you can separate them, because they are VAR. The system is being used by the referees, by those who are involved in the sport. So I don't think we can say VAR is great but the referees are shit, because they're still the referees. And I don't think we can pull the two apart. It said the introduction this season of in-game announcements to explain VAR decisions is supported by more than half of fans, but there's still disgruntlement about the communication process overall. A marginal majority of those polled said they do support using VAR to review red cards, but there is an overall opposition to its use for offsides, fouls and handballs in the build-up to goals. The only use of technology that is strongly supported, according to the poll, is goal line technology, which is backed by more than 93%. And that, look, I agree with as well. I think goal line technology is incredible, and it's been a great addition to football. It's quick, it's most of the time reliable. You know, like any technology, there will be moments where it doesn't work, but I would certainly think that adding in VAR, goal line technology, has been incredible. It really has been brilliant, and nobody complains about it. If the ref points at his watch, gives the goal, nobody complains, because they know that the system will have been right. Shane said Thursday night was just heartbreaking, though. It was, man, especially because we raced into the 2-goal lead, you know, and then give away a very needless penalty. And even at that, the second goal as well. You know, I do have my Irish glasses on here, but I don't see where the linesman got that foul from, Shane. I didn't see a foul there. And of course, we could have defended it and should have defended it better, but it just felt like they were two very deniable goals. We shouldn't have conceded them. Raekwon, how are you, dude? Hey, Craig, welcome back. The only thing I don't like about journalists covering Liverpool is that they're willing to criticise players and Klopp, but say nothing about the head coach or upper management. Your thoughts? Right, this is where I get comfortable. So, my thoughts are, like any industry, there are people who I think write about Liverpool well, and there are people who I think rely on pandering to the club for access. And that's a problem. I've long said I don't think that there is enough. I don't even want to say criticism, because I don't think criticism is necessarily the right word. I just don't think they're objective enough in covering the club. A lot of journalists. And I tend to, these days, to watch and read more and more from journalists that don't cover the club solely, but cover the occasional game or cover football more broadly, because I find their opinions more balanced. But I've long said it, Raekwon, football is not in a healthy position in that regard. Football clubs have way too much power in these situations, because I can't think of another walk of life where journalists are so hamstrung, excuse me, that they can't really push back because they're told what they can't ask. These subjects are off limits. Football has a problem with transparency, and our club, I can speak about our club more knowledgeably because, I watch Liverpool week in, week out. I read up about Liverpool all the time, and I'm sure if we talk to Arsenal fans, United fans, Chelsea fans, they'd all have their own versions of outlets that they think do the same thing. And the nothing about the head coach or upper management. Well, why do you think they don't criticise the upper management? Because the upper management are the ones that are giving them all the little nods and winks. Club sources. It's one big manipulation game. And the real sad point in this for me is I know some of these journalists have been told stuff by the club that they've gone to print with, that they question themselves. Now, like I keep saying, if that's what you went to study journalism for, to just be a lackey, then I'm sorry, I don't know what to say. Because there's not enough proper journalism around Liverpool Football Club for the very reasons you've said. Because there isn't enough critiquing, there isn't enough holding people to account, there isn't enough dialogue, and there isn't enough tough questions being asked. And again, I don't want to keep going down this route, but football fans aren't fucking idiots. And we get treated like it over and over again. People can see through this stuff now, and I'm really glad they can. Because they deserve better. We all deserve better. Craig, what's your take on the Axel Hesse Alonso article in Bild? One thing I would say is regarding Alonso, Leverkusen, that type of news, he's extremely reliable. I think if my memory's right, he was one of the first with the Wirtz story. So I would say credible, but like anything else, I don't think you can use any one source to say yes. You have to look at multiple sources. It would be naive of us to think that the club aren't keeping a channel of communication open to Alonso. Now, I don't know what happens. I don't know exactly what happens in the summer. I know what I think happens. I know what I've been told is likely to happen, but these things are always moving. But the fact Alonso hasn't really been tipped for another job as much, or hasn't been openly talking with another club at this late point of the season as well, it has to tell you something. So I feel comfortable in saying that they're certainly keeping communication open with Alonso, and let's wait and see what happens after that. Because look, I've no problem, or I won't push back against anybody who thinks that they've concerns about Alonso becoming Liverpool manager. I have concerns about Alonso becoming Liverpool manager. So if I'm being blunt about it, do I think he's the best fit for the Liverpool job? No, I don't. But do I think he's better than Arne, or would be better than Arne? Yes, I do. I do, for a whole host of reasons that aren't just down to the coaching of the team and the tactics and the formation, for many other reasons. Deep down, when I think about the subject, I feel like if they can find any way to justify keeping Arne, they're going to try and do it. And I think these... I've got my cynical hat on here again because I had a lot of time to think over the last week. And when the Salah situation came to a head, do you know what I thought about? And look, I could be an asshole for this, but when I heard Mohamed Salah was going to leave the football club, two things went through my mind. Obviously, you think about Mohamed Salah, you think about his time with Liverpool and everything he's achieved, and you're sad for that coming to an end. But another part of me thought, is this another way to try to make sure that the atmosphere inside Anfield is going to be as good as it can be for these remaining games? That there isn't going to be boos, that there isn't going to be calls for the manager. And that's kind of where my head went with it. And again, not necessarily a bad thing. Nobody wants Anfield to be toxic. Nobody wants Anfield to be negative. But it just feels to me like another one of these situations that are being managed. And that's okay. Clubs have to do these things. But that's kind of where my mind went at the time. is that this is, one, Mohamed Salah letting everybody know what's happening, which, again, I'm sure everyone appreciates. But after that, I did think, is this kind of another way to kind of give that last push for the end of the season, to get fans back behind the team and staying behind the team, even if results aren't what we would have wanted. And look, that's my cynical hat on, but I'm not saying it's wrong either, because there's nothing wrong with trying to get the most out of every match, trying to get, make sure the fans are behind the team as much as possible. I mean, they're probably right to do that. But that's kind of where my head was when I heard all this stuff. And with regards to the build piece, we're just going to have to wait and see what happens. I don't know if anybody right now can tell you categorically exactly how this plays out. What's this? So, Martin Samuel of the Times wrote, nobody is defending Greenwood's alleged actions or downplaying the seriousness of the original accusation. De Zerbi, however, has committed no crime beyond remaining faithful to the idea of second chances. I don't know what to say to that. Because the same people that write that and push that narrative will be the very ones talking about stamp out hate in football, respect, get rid of misogyny, respect for the women's game, respect for women. And I don't know how you can marry those two subjects together and write something like that. I'm sorry. Right is right and wrong is wrong. And Greenwood's a fucking toe rag. Simple as that. And De Zerbi was quite happy to have him there. And second chances, maybe. But I don't think he really admitted the first. We're talking about somebody who put his hands up here and admitted to all of his faults. And no, the whole situation is bullshit. If you want to just toe the line, fair enough, be a pussy. But let's be fucking upfront about this. He deserves any booing, any criticism he gets. Because I have a daughter. I don't want my daughter treated like that by anybody. Let alone do I want somebody else condoning or in any way welcoming somebody like that into a club. Because these people are supposed to be pillars of society. The head of a football club. A football club that, again, will preach to have morals and ethics. But it's how many times, unfortunately, in the modern day have we seen ethics get folded over when there's pound notes at stake? So if you really have ethics, if you really believe in these things, then you live that life and you don't just talk about it. They aren't just catchphrases, they aren't just slogans, they aren't just PR exercises. You either believe in right and wrong or you don't. So they can try to pander to this situation as much as they want, but again, football fans will make up their own mind on it. If some people are quite happy with De Zerbi coming into Spurs, crack on. If other people aren't happy about it, speak up about it. For me, he's a fucking toe rag, Greenwood. And anybody that wanted him or made way for him in their team, as far as I'm concerned, they're toe rags as well. And I'm not going to apologise for it. I'm the son of a mother who was raped. Fuck all of them. Anybody that treats women like that. Each and every one of them. So don't preach down to football fans about removing hate from football, about taking a knee and all these other things, while at the same time selective fucking outrage from clubs again when money's at stake. You either walk the walk or you don't. Simple as that. And I'm not going to apologise for it, because I was taught what's right and what's wrong when I was a child. And too many people these days are quite happy to turn their back or look away when it comes time to saying the difficult things. And that type of cowardly bullshit behaviour allows these scumbags to continue on in life. It allows these scumbags to continue making millions of quid and making other people money. We've seen it time and time again where industries have turned a blind eye. When I was away this week, I only seen that a BBC DJ was sacked for allegations about a teenage boy. And I'm sorry, this shit needs to be called out. Right is right and wrong is wrong. Simple as that. You all heard the video. Greenwood should have no place in sport. He should be shunned. But keep writing those articles trying to say that De Zerbi's committed no crime, and then tell me if that was your daughter, how you'd feel. So again, fuck him and his article, and fuck De Zerbi. Should Liverpool try and get Troy Parrott? I say it'd be good for us. Miss having an Irish player in the team. Um, do you know what? It's mad that Troy Parrott's still only 24, but I don't think we need another striker. In all honesty, like we have Ekatike, we have Isak, so I don't think we really need another striker. And we've got Jaden Dans, who we hope can put his injuries behind him and get back to playing footy and scoring goals. So, and then of course we've got Will Wright as well coming through. So I don't think we need another striker, but I do get where you're coming from about wanting an Irish player in it. When I was growing up as well, we always had a couple of Irish players in the team. So yeah, having Kelleher was lovely when he was there, but I don't think we need to move for Troy Parrott. Good to see you back, my friend. How was holiday? Missed your what? Bull riding video though. Sorry. Yeah, so that was Sabrina. And you weren't getting me on that, dude, no. But Sabrina had a couple of goals on it because she wasn't happy with her first attempt, so she went and had another go on it. But that was good. It was a good night that night. I'm into country music, so that was a very nice evening. Do you think the summer is now or never for Xabi? Oh, good question, mate. Good question. So, no is the answer, but let me explain why. I don't think it's now or never because we're not talking about a player, we're talking about a coach. And coaches can go on till they're 50, 60, 70. So I wouldn't say it's now or never. But often in football, it's about things lining up at the right time. It's about all the dominoes falling into place. And, we talk about these sliding door moments, and this feels like one. I won't say it's now or never, but I don't know if there'll be a better time in the near future to make that change. Because one, no compensation is going to be due, so you won't have to buy him out of a contract. Two, we know we take the job. So, yeah, I think it's probably as good an opportunity as we could have hoped for if they think they need to change the manager. I hope that they feel they need to change the manager, but, let's wait and see. So Isak to World Cup as well. Feel sorry for Dom and Milos. What about me? What about us Irish? Where's our sympathy? No, fair play to Sweden. I'd seen they were, was it 2-1 up against Poland? Or I know they were up by a goal against Poland at half time anyway. So fair play if they got through. Congratulations to them. And yeah, Graham Potter bringing the Swedish team and Isak to the World Cup. It'll be interesting. And by the way, on the World Cup, can we talk about the World Cup for a minute? Because it's becoming an absolute disgrace. Foxy said, Rancho, Texas, Lanzarotte's class. It was brilliant, Foxy. He had a great night, mate. Really enjoyed it. And certainly recommend it to anybody who's gone over as well. So this World Cup is turning into a bit of a farce. It's becoming the Robin Bastards World Cup. I was reading an article the other day that said that normally a ticket to go from Boston out to the stadium out there, Foxborough, costs about $15 or $18 for the train. It's been put up recently a bit, but for the World Cup, football fans are going to be expected to pay up to $80 for a ticket that was $15 to $18 a few months ago. And at every opportunity, FIFA and the host nations and cities have found a way to absolutely rinse football fans. You're talking about up to £300-400 for car parking for some games, according to reports. You've all seen the ticket prices. It's an absolute shit show. It's an absolute disgrace. This is supposed to be a festival of football. It isn't. It's profiteering and rinsing football fans yet again. And I'm glad to see that a lot of journalists are actually speaking up about this. Because if you can't call this out, it's the World Cup. Like, to put it into context, Qatar, last World Cup, lots of faults about that, but public transport, free. Match ticket, the rail system, the metro system was free for people going to and from the games. Now contrast that with £80 to get a train from Boston out to Foxborough. Scandalous. Scandalous. And they don't seem to care, FIFA. Now then you look at UEFA and the European Championships, where tickets are going to be available for as little as £30. That's class. And I hope so many people get the opportunity to take in a game at the Euros, because that's affordable. That's going to give people a chance to go. You know, we're all fed up of real football fans being priced out of football. And, you know, there are many people who will dream of going to a World Cup and following their nation there, you know, right throughout the tournament or as long as they're in it. And you just have to say enough is enough. Like, football fans are just fed up of being fleeced. Leona said prices go up every single World Cup. Money talks, unfortunately. But are we forgetting something here? FIFA is a not-for-profit. You know, they'll tell you the money's reinvested back into the game, but there's plenty of money there. They don't need to fleece football fans as much as they are. It's a conscious choice. And what's going to happen is you're going to see a lot of empty seats. It's just unfortunate. There's no need for it. You know, the World Cup should be the biggest festival of football, and it should be achievable to everyone. Because we're talking about these prices as people coming from the Western world where, you know, there's money around. You know, I'm not saying we're all loaded, but there's money around. Like, imagine you're coming from a country that has, you know, an average income per month of €1,200 or something like that. How are you supposed to be able to go and support your country if they've qualified? And there's a lot of countries getting there for the first time in this tournament as well. And, you know, you don't want to see fans priced out of a dream. It might never happen again for some country like that. AHLFC said, great show as always. Which question if Slot does stay? If Slot does stay for the next season and with ticket prices on the verge of going up, how long will it take FSG to sack Slot? So here's my concern, right? And I don't think I'm alone in this one. But let's say they give him the start of next season. And let's say we're in October and we're going into the October international break and we're just not where we would be. And they sack him. What's going to happen there? We're going to have to wait to see if the damage has been done and we have to write off another season as fans. You know, will a new manager then come in, take time to get his feet under the table, get to know the players, change the style? You know, we could be writing off 2 seasons in a row. So I would say sack him in the summer. You know, if you've any thoughts of sacking him, sack him in the summer. Or put a new contract in front of him. And that's the part that I think is calling their bluff on this. Because if they did believe in him as much as they say they did, put a new contract down in front of him. You know, back up your belief. But they're not doing that because they don't have the belief. But they want the world to think they do. Mate, you have to explain how you get a mark on your forehead while sleeping on a plane. No problem. I'll give it a best shot. So, on the plane on Ryanair, you've got your little table that pops down. And then you've got, because they don't have pockets or anything, they've got like little things that have like the QR codes for the menus and all that stuff. So I had my arms on the seat and I had my forehead like that. But my forehead was against one of the indentations or one of the raised areas on the seat. It was like a frame in and around it. And that's how I pushed on that because I kept it there for most of the flight. So yeah, that's how I got the mark on my head. Muldor said, Craig, welcome back, mate. Hope the vacation was well. Glad you're back. Thank you, man. It was lovely. Really nice. Feel really relaxed and good to be back. I made myself a couple of promises while I was away. I'm not going to hold back anymore. I'm not going to pander to people. And I don't mean my audience. I mean, of course, you guys are what makes this channel. But I'm not going to just accept the bullshit from journalists or anybody anymore. Because we deserve better. We all deserve better. And if these people haven't got the balls to do their job properly, they deserve to be called out for it. And they can throw their toys out of the pram. They can do what they always do, which is go on social media, bitch and moan about it. But ultimately, when they put their head down on the little John W. Henry loving pillows at night, they know we're right. And it must eat away at them. Sitting there at night knowing that you're nothing but a lackey. They don't like hearing it. They throw their toys out of the pram about it. But deep down, they know we're right. Because that's not what you went to college to study journalism for. To be a yes man? To be afraid to speak out? Because if you have to rely on access for your job, leave. Do something else. Because that's a pathetic existence. to have to worry that if you can't speak out honestly because you're withholding to the club, that's a weak position to be in. And it's not what journalism should be about. So until these people start showing balance in their coverage of the football club, I'm going to continue to call them out on it. I'm going to continue to tell them to stop treating football fans like idiots. And I'm going to continue to do what I have done, which is try to hold some of these people to account. Simple. That's all I can do. Because it really, really, really annoys me that we get taken for idiots. You know? World Cup is also a time where the host nation gets to advertise about their country and culture. Welcome back, Craig. Missed you. Yeah, look, I love America. I'm on record of saying this many times. I love America dearly, and I've always enjoyed my trips over there. I've always had a great time. The people I've always found to be lovely. But every country is a bit different. Every country has their own belief systems, their own priorities. But I agree with your statement. You know, this could be a time to again show the world how great Canada is, how great Mexico is, how great America is, the best of all these countries and cultures. It doesn't have to be an opportunity to just fleece as much money out of the footballing public as possible, because that's just a shame. It's just a shame. And no ordinary people are benefiting from that. Again, it's only the people at the top that benefit from this, and there's no need for it. I don't ever want a season like this again, said Itachi. Nor do I, sir. Nor do I. It's been a tough one. It really has, because, like I said, we came into it so full of hope and optimism for the season. You know, really happy with the signings we'd made, but it hasn't really panned out as we'd wanted it to so far. So here's one for you. How confident are you that we beat Manchester City? Let me just put that to a poll, because we haven't run a poll tonight. 1 second. And by the way, if you think I'm going too over the top, please let me know. Because I promised myself while I was away that I'm going to just say it as I see it. And here's why. Because none of these people that love to look down their noses at me or our community give a fuck about us. They don't. They pretend we don't exist, or they look down their noses at our community. So I'm going to treat them with the same disdain that they treat us. And I'm going to just call it as I see it. If you do a good job like I've always done, I'll come on here and praise them for it. But if they continue to be lackeys, cowards, hide behind the little briefings they get from the club and print stuff that they question themselves, then I'm going to be here to call it out. If they don't like it, tough. Be better. So, will we beat City on Saturday? Yes or no? Not confident on the international, or excuse me, after the international, said Tanya. Very poor. Yeah, we don't have a great record after international, Tanya. I agree with you on that one, mate. It's so hard to figure out. You know, I don't think I could sit here with any level of confidence and say one thing or another. I don't think I could sit here and tell you we're definitely going to lose. And I don't think I can sit here and tell you we're definitely going to win, because it has been a basket case of the season. You know, we've seen what we're capable of, but we just haven't seen it enough. And that, I think, has been the frustration for a lot of people, because if we believed it was because we had poor players, or if we believed it was because we were making mistakes because of a new style of football or something that the manager was looking to implement, I think people would be a lot more understanding of it. But it's tough to see in March, nearly April, that we still haven't figured it out. And look, I do understand and sympathise that there have been a lot of injuries this year, but we're not being the only ones that have had injuries. Look at Spurs' injuries. And yes, you can say that we're still up there fighting for Champions League places, and we are, but that should be a bare minimum. You know, it shouldn't even be a debate whether we get into the Champions League with the quality of squad that we have. So it's been a tough season. We all have a bit of hope that maybe a miracle comes yet, but I just I just can't wait for this one to be over. Come what may, I just can't wait for the season to be over and to get a fresh start in the summer, and just go again next season. Saw a stat earlier for Jeremy Jacquet. He's on centre back league on under 30 with 7.01 per 90 breaking passes. I'm excited for him to join us and stop the side to side playing. So, yeah, actually, thank you for bringing him up, because I wanted to read out something that Ibrahim Konate said, and then I want to tie it back into something that was, I don't know who said it, but there was an article written a week or two ago that said that Liverpool were planning for next season with Jeremy Jacquet and Virgil van Dijk as the two starting centre-backs. And it kind of made me wonder about Konate's future. Like, has the club already kind of got it in their heads that Konate is not going to stay? But then I seen comments from Ibrahim Konate with ESPN, and it kind of makes me wonder, is he trying to say he's going to stay? Let me read it out to you and we'll figure it out. So Ibrahim Konate, Romano posted this, speaking to ESPN, "We bring new players, we will adapt, we will try to understand each other, and at a point, with time, we will win a trophy. We will have success when we win the Premier League or the Champions League. People will forget about every bad season we had because now we won the league last season. This is just part of the success. We have to be relaxed because we have amazing fans. We have to stay together and the success will come for sure." That sounds like somebody who thinks he has a future here, in my eyes. Maybe there's, I don't know, something lost in translation there, but certainly the tone of that, to me, sounds like we will adapt. Not we have, still talking about the future, talking about, what may happen down the line. So yeah, I wanted to kind of tie those two in, James, with your stat on Jeremy Jacquet, the article that I read suggesting that the club were planning for Jacquet and Van Dijk and were worried with the injury picked up. And then, I've seen that today and I just thought, that kind of sounds fairly positive from Konate. Chris Tatton Music said, "I can see Arna bin the FA Cup to prioritise the Champions League." I don't think he has the wiggle room, Chris, to start prioritising anything at this point. You have to go for everything. Yeah, we just don't have the wiggle room. Look, it's a tough draw, and even if you're coming into it in the best of form, away at City is a tough one, because we look at it through our own red tinted glasses, but Manchester City are probably thinking this could be Pep Guardiola's last year. They've just won the League Cup, and they're going to probably want to send him off, if indeed he does leave, with his another trophy. Oh, on that, I wanted to read something out to you guys. That, one sec, I want to just read it out because I don't want to. Oh, I found a piece the other day. I was reading an article from Sporting Intel, and it was an article about Manchester City and Pep Guardiola and a few other things. But I wanted to read you out one part from the article that stood out to me and kind of made me have even less respect for Guardiola. So, where is it? Bear with me, folks. So, it's from Sporting Intel, his Substack, and it said, more recently, Pep Guardiola, while playing for Brescia in Italy, failed 2 drugs tests in 2001, testing positive for the banned steroid nandrolone. He received a 4-month ban, a 7-month suspended prison sentence, and a €9,000 fine. Over 6 years, Guardiola used a defence of contamination, which wasn't true, and then he claimed a medical condition causing the anomalous result, which was initially not accepted until that decision was reversed on a technicality, a decision Italy's anti-doping authorities disagreed with. It's funny how everywhere Guardiola rocks up, there's a technicality, isn't there, that gets away with things like the time-barred charges for UEFA for Manchester City. Funny though, another technicality now. Banned for nandrolone doping, and again, technicality gets him away with it. So I wonder, is he just fond of pushing the limits? Is he really as surprised as we all think he might be with what's going on at Manchester City at the minute? I don't know, but again, how am I, as a football fan, supposed to look at that and have real faith there that we're talking about somebody on the up and up here? Because that's cheating. There's no other words to put it. It's fucking cheating. And he's not the only one, by the way. The piece was talking about Italian football in general and a few more cases in it, but that one just stood out to me for El Guardiola because I'm getting a bit fed up of him pretending that everything at Manchester City is great and nothing was done wrong, and we all have to kind of just nod along because he's Pep and the media love him. Now, sorry, I didn't even know about that until I read that piece from Nick. Shocking, just shocking. And again, it just makes you wonder: is there any accountability really, or again, is it people with influence and powerful positions find a way to get these technicalities? Because I'm getting a bit of a pain in me bollocks seeing people get away with stuff with technicalities and stuff like that, because the rest of us don't get to walk away from any problems we have in our life because of technicalities, Itachi said, at this point, so I'll be calling him Nandra Pep from here on out, because I think I should give him a new nickname. It's either Nandrolone Pep or Nandra Pep, one or the other. I fucking hate cheats, by the way. I hate them. In any sport. Despise them. Can't stand them. Sport's tough enough. If you're not good enough, you're not good enough. But looking for that edge, that tells you a lot about someone's character. And again, he got off with it on a technicality, as the article said there. But if the anti-doping authorities in the country that was looking to ban him didn't even buy it, it's another tough one to take, isn't it? Itachi said, at this point, players should play for themselves to achieve something, not for Arna anymore, if they ever have. Well, I did say, mate, that for me, if we do win anything this year, it will be in spite of the manager, not because of him. But, I don't think we can turn a blind eye to the players this year either. Because we've seen that they're able to switch it on. We've seen that they're able to play in particular environments and games. So, I always am a bit suspicious that players, and I'm not talking about just Liverpool players here, I mean, you can look at any club. They find form when a new manager comes in, but seemingly can't find that same form 2 weeks beforehand for a different manager. Now, again, you'll never say anyone's downing tools, but are you leaving it all out there on the pitch if you're not really believing in the coach? These are, again, taboo subjects that we don't really discuss enough. But, how are we able to play like we did against Galatasaray and then show up against Wolves and be as shit as we were, and play against Spurs and be as shit as we were? So, like I said many times this year, the manager is probably going to be the one held accountable for it, but there's been failures all around. There's been failures from the playing side, failures from the recruitment side, failures from the executive side. It's a weird one because it's not a Liverpool thing. It happens in football over and over again. You see it many times. A manager's not getting a tune out of players. The manager goes, new manager comes in, and all of a sudden these same players look like completely different people. Muldor said, for me, I don't think it matters what Man City team shows up, more which team shows up for us. Are the boys engaged and ready, or lax and unfocused? We can beat anybody when we're on our game. Yeah, I think you've nailed it, mate. I don't really have anything to disagree with you on there. We're good enough to beat anybody on our day, and if we show up. But unfortunately, this season, we just haven't seen enough of it. I'd be a liar if I said that, my heart didn't drop a little bit when I seen the FA Cup draw. You at least want a home draw on that if you're getting a team like City, but an away draw with the form we're in, look, you can look at it two ways. If we do get the result, surely it instills confidence for the remainder of the season. And surely it gives the lads a bit of a, excuse me for the phrase, but pep in their step. It could go I don't even think it could go either way, because if you lose to it, you get a chance to rebound quickly against Paris Saint-Germain. But this next couple of weeks could either be an incredible couple of weeks where our faith could be restored, or it could be the underlining of a very difficult season and it leaves us with little to nothing to play for. So, the whole season's on the line over the next few weeks. The home and away games against Paris Saint-Germain and the FA Cup game against Manchester City. It's going to be an emotional couple of weeks for us. Can Isak have a big impact on the season left? I struggle, Carl, to think of. I struggle to think of how we could even expect that of him. Trying to be fair about it. Like, I'd love him to have an impact, and hopefully he can have some impact. But I can only speak for me, mate. And I've always said, when he comes back, I'm not really expecting too much for the rest of the season. I want him ready for the start of next season, and anything we can get from him this season, I'd certainly look at as a bonus. It must be very difficult for Isak as well. It wouldn't have gone the way he would have wanted in his first season either. So, like I said, let's see what happens this season. But whatever happens in the summer, whoever is in charge, I do think we will be better next year. It's just a case of how much better and who'll be in charge. Oh, so one other subject that I noticed there was a lot of chatter about while I was away, which was Jamie Carragher's list of his all-time Liverpool players. And there was a lot of pushback because Mohamed Salah had gone from 5th to 6th on his list. Do you know what I can't really understand personally? And look, Jamie Carragher's list it's okay. I wouldn't agree with all of it, but I can understand. There's one thing I can't understand on his list, though. How do you put John Barnes above Mohamed Salah? By what metric? I don't get that. And I love John Barnes. He was one of my idols when I was growing up, and certainly one of the reasons that I loved watching Liverpool Football Club. But what Mohamed Salah has done is otherworldly. The numbers that he's put up have been absolutely sensational. And I don't know how you can put Mo below John Barnes on that list. Kenny, of course, look, no one's going to argue about Kenny, Stevie G. But look at the numbers Mo's done over the amount of seasons he's done. I just don't see how. Barnes is incredible, but I just don't know how you put Mohamed Salah below John Barnes. By what metric? Like, I don't understand it. Yeah, for me, love John Barnes. Absolutely love him, like I said, but I think Mohamed Salah has to be above him on any list of Liverpool's greats. John Barnes was unbelievable, to be fair. Nobody's debating that, mate. He was brilliant. Like I said, a big part of the reason why I love watching Liverpool growing up. But look at what we're living through with Salah. Look at the consistency over 8-9 years. I don't. When we're talking about attacking players, there's not many that can hold a candle to him in that regard. So I find it weird. Yeah, and maybe, look, I haven't spoken with Cara about this, but sometimes we have our own idols as well, right? For me, Robbie Fowler. I'd probably put Robbie Fowler higher up on a list than other people would, because he was an icon to me, an idol. And maybe Jamie Carragher feels that way about John Barnes. So maybe it's a bit of his own emotion in there. And that's cool. These lists are all about your own opinion. I just wanted to, throw in my tuppence worth on it, because I'd seen a lot of people talking about it over the week. And, for me on the list, that was the one that stood out to me, that I just thought, I think Mo should be a bit higher up there. Sharkovic said it's his opinion, though. You can't argue with someone's opinion, I guess. Well, I tried to say I potentially understand why he would have done it, but I just, these lists are just talking points, like you've said, mate. And as much as Cara's absolutely entitled to his, I'd love to hear him explain why. Why he puts Barnes ahead. And again, they're individual lists, like you've said. He's absolutely entitled to his opinion. I just would like a bit more information on what his thinking was there. That's all. I'd take Barnes over Mo, just my own opinion. But based on what? Again, I'm not saying you're right or wrong, mate, because it's your opinion, but how or why? You know, this is what I'm trying to say. Like, of course we can all have opinions, but let's back up our opinions and explain why. And I love John Barnes, like I've said. Like, had John Barnes posters on my wall growing up, absolutely love the man. Incredible player. But I do think with Mohamed Salah, we're going to be looking back on this in 20 years' time and thinking, holy shit, like, what a player. What a set of numbers. What a amount of records broken. It was just, yeah. I just, I find it very difficult to really look past Mohamed Salah to get into the top 5 on any list. But no, see, a lot of people in the chat are saying John Barnes was amazing. Nobody's saying he wasn't amazing. That's not the question. I'm saying, if you think he's above Mo, why? And I've yet to see anybody say why. And again, no problem. We can all disagree. That's absolutely cool. But, I'm explaining my side of it. The records, the consistency over a number of seasons. That's why I would put Mo above. But, other than Barnes is great, I've not seen anybody say, an argument to why he should be above Mo on the list. It's just more out of curiosity and for a talking point than anything. I mean, let's not fall out over it. Steve said, I think even Barnes would rank Salah ahead of him. I don't know. I certainly know, quality appreciates quality, or, game respects game and recognises game. They were two incredible players, and you put them in any 11. You'd happily have either of them in your team if you were playing as well. I'm sure Carragher said because Barnes was a better footballer. I don't know. Better footballer in what way? Again, like, I grew up watching John Barnes, and I've seen Mohamed Salah, and I just don't think any of us could put up an argument against Salah's consistency. It's like the Eden Hazard debate. That's also bullshit. Anybody who tries to even put Hazard close to Mohamed Salah is fooling themselves. The only person I think you can really put above Mohamed Salah, and even at that I'd still make an argument, is Thierry Henry. I can understand that, but I don't know. And I'm sitting here arguing this point as somebody who gets criticised for being a Mohamed Salah hater all the time by certain people. But I've always said the reason I'm more harsh on Mo is the same reason I'm more harsh on Virgil and Alisson, is because these are the standard bearers, and we hold them to a higher standard. Scott Bell said Barnes is the reason I started supporting Liverpool. However, I'd put Mo above Barnes. So I wouldn't say he's the reason I started supporting Liverpool, but he was a big part of it. I loved him, and those leg muscles of his still. You can still see him in the dugout in the crown paint shirt with the tight shorts on. It was just incredible, John Barnes, absolutely. But I think Mo's consistency and numbers just speak for themselves. What would happen if we were winning 2-1 aggregate second leg and PSG scored last second and a fan takes him out? I don't know where you're going with that one, mate. Nobody mentioning the master technician Firmino on the list. So I've seen Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain actually said that Firmino was the most underrated player that he's played with. And then he said maybe not underrated, but underappreciated. And I have to agree. Outside of the Liverpool fan base, I really think that football doesn't really still appreciate how good Firmino was and how important Firmino was to that Jurgen Klopp team. Without Bobby Firmino, Mane and Salah don't do their thing. You know, the space isn't there. The selflessness of Bobby Firmino was sensational. You know, I'm an unashamed Bobby Firmino fanboy and love him to bits. So when I seen Oxlade-Chamberlain talking about that, I thought, yes, good man. Because I remember Arsenal fans in particular for years saying that he's just not that good. And they were looking at Bobby purely from a goal scoring perspective, which I guess I kind of understand from the outside because he is the number 9, but he was about so much more than that. He was about the press. He was about confidence. He was about making something out of nothing. He was about the selflessness of his running and movement to allow Mane and Salah to get the chances that they did. And it was probably the best front line of my lifetime that I can remember. And look, others will argue, and we've had some great ones over the years, so it's a fun debate to have. But that Mane, Salah, Firmino front three was something really special. It takes someone who understands football to appreciate Bobby. Yes, exactly. And I think, to be fair as well, Keane, I could understand how maybe people that don't watch him every week would come to that conclusion. But for us, you know, the people who did get to see him every week, you know, we knew how important Bobby Firmino was to that team. You know, apart from the fact he was a peacemaker at times as well. Denmark out. Wow. Wow, so Czechia did it. Congratulations to them. I got to be honest, I had Denmark probably winning that one, but fair play to Czechia. Right, let's go through some stories. So, Empire of the Cop posted something from Mark Bruss on Lamine Camara. He said, I'm told that Chelsea and Liverpool are among the clubs closely monitoring him, having scouted him for some time. Chelsea are keen to rejuvenate their midfield, while Liverpool's tactical approach continues to rely on high-energy midfielders, making Camara an attractive target. So, has anybody watched much of this gent playing for Monaco? 22 years of age, I believe, Senegalese international, playing with Monaco. You know, he does tick a lot of, excuse me, a lot of boxes for what Liverpool would look for. Maybe slightly not underappreciated, but certainly not overpriced. Or it just seems like it could be a potential sweet spot kind of signing for Liverpool. But I don't know anything about him. I haven't watched them, but you know, age profile wise, coming in from France, you know, Monaco have brought in some great players over the years. I was just interested to see what you guys thought about it because, like I said, I haven't had much of a chance to look into him. Right, so we have a poll run and we're asking, will we beat Manchester City on Sunday? Let me pin this to the... Oh, why won't it let me pin it? It's not letting me pin this. I don't know. We'll leave it there anyway. We have a poll run, yeah. Will we beat Manchester City on Saturday? Yes or no? Everyone's Football said Bobby, Salah and Mane were at one time the best front three in the world. I'd go along with that. Or certainly you could make a valid argument for that. Yeah, it was incredible. Like, it was just so much fun watching Liverpool when those three lads were playing together. You never knew what was going to happen. It was glorious. It was certainly, yeah, it was my favourite front three of my time supporting Liverpool as a unit. What else we got? Paddy Wacker, how are you, mate? Good evening, all. Sorry I'm late to the stream. Craig, I hope you and your family had a great holiday. Thank you, dude. It was lovely, thank you, yes. Connor done a great job while you were away, but I did miss you and the chats and crack. Thank you, man. Yeah, Connor did a brilliant job. Look, I would expect nothing less. You know, I'm glad that you guys are getting to see a side of Connor that I've always known as there, because I've had the pleasure of getting to know him over the last 8 or 9 years. But it's good to see him become more and more confident with each video and build up his own little following as well, which is great to see. But you know, I do love doing this myself, so I'm glad to be back and excited to be back with you all. It's been a great week with the family, but I always miss you guys. 4 or 5 days into it, I'm itching to get back to work. Do you think FSG will go big in the summer transfer window? I don't think we're going to have a situation like last summer now. I think we'll do what needs to be done. Will we be talking about the same quality or pedigree as others? Probably not, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I'd be more. I hope we don't have any regrets about positions that we haven't strengthened. I don't expect us to break the British transfer record every time we make a signing, but I don't want to go into next season feeling like we're still under-equipped in one specific area. We need a CDM. We need a holding midfielder. We have to get one of them in. We need at least one, probably two wingers. And then maybe a centre-back. And then, of course, we've got to have some tough conversations about what the future holds for Andy Robertson. What happens on the right side with Conor Bradley? Is he going to be able to get back and stay fit? Even Frimpong now, he went off injured tonight for the Netherlands, and fingers crossed that that's not too serious. I really don't know what's happened there, but that's my concern for this summer, is we need to make sure that we can build out the squad to have the depth, because we've got quality and our first 11 is as good as anyone's. But we have to make sure that our second 11 is going to be as competitive, that we can go out there and really compete across 4 competitions, if we're lucky enough to be in 4 next season. Wow, Italy are out. Oh my days. Wow. So is that 3 tournaments in a row now for Italy that they haven't qualified for? Am I wrong on that one? Maybe it's 1 out of 4 that they have. I'm not sure. But wow. That's it's so mad thinking of World Cups without Italy in it. Italy are such a mainstay, especially when I was growing up. Italy was the powerhouse of club football anyway. It's where the money was. It's where a lot of the top players were. 3 in a row, that's incredible. That's going to hurt the Italian footy fans, because like us, they love their football. Gary said, as much as I like Connor, he isn't you, just like Barnes isn't Salah. Well, thank you, Gary. Look, me and Connor are a team in this. I wouldn't do it without him, and I'd like to think it's the other way around as well. And I'm happy for him to be doing these morning videos, and he's happy to do them. But ultimately, the channel was built on his brilliance behind the scenes, his graphic design skills, and my live content. That's what we built the channel on. So I don't want us to veer away from that. But I am incredibly proud to see him doing this thing in the mornings and doing his videos. Because I know how funny he is. And I'm so glad that you guys are getting to see it, because he's a really, really witty, funny guy. Sometimes if you would hear our phone calls when we're setting up streams and stuff to each other, you'd see where I'm coming from a bit more. But I'm glad that he's making his own little following, and that people are tuning in for his videos, and his numbers are absolutely incredible. And I'm delighted for him, and delighted for us, all of us, because like I said, it's a family affair. Gordon, Diamonde, DM, a left back, Camavinga, and Van de Ven. I mean, I wouldn't say no to most of that list, mate, to be honest with you. Fan of most of those players on that list. They didn't have 2020 Euro prime goat Fede Chiesa. Yeah, he he said he wasn't fit enough, I think, if I remember correctly. Scotland have made more World Cups since 2014 than Italy. That is nuts. Congratulations to the countries that did qualify tonight, though. Czechia, well done to them. Bosnia, well done to them. I don't know who else went through in the playoffs. Let me just check. Let me just run through the scores here now. So Bosnia threw on penalties, Czechia threw on penalties, Turkey threw, and Sweden threw. So congratulations to all of them. Craig, would you rather only get Yan Diamonde for 100 million euro for right wing, or 40 to 60 million players for right wing depth? Depth. Look, I'd love Diamonde, but we need depth. We have to make sure that we don't have the same mistakes as going into the next season and thinking, right, done some great business, but we still have some holes in the squad. If anything, this season should give us a good warning sign that you need to have strength in depth. There are going to be more injuries next season again because it's a World Cup year. Players aren't going to get much of a break. It's really important that you have a group that is robust enough to get through a season and really be able to compete. Because I hate when we start throwing away League Cups and stuff like that. I hate it. I want to see us competing for everything. So I would happily take a few less superstars if we could be creative and clever in other ways and make sure that we got the depth in that we needed. Because like I said, you go through that team now, the spine of it's still brilliant. We do have to look to the future with regards to Virgil's situation. Obviously, we don't know what's going with Canade or Robbo yet. Aryan, thank you, mate. Very kind of you. Appreciate your kind words, mate. Losing on penalties for the World Cup's heartbreaking. Oh yes, it is. It is, mate. Especially after when we went 1-up, when Chechia missed. That was a tough one. This Legends game with Kloppo back felt like a warm blanket in the cold weather with some hot chocolate. It really felt. It felt nice, Nessie, didn't it? Just even seeing him in the Liverpool gear on the sideline, just the energy again that he brings and the aura around the man. It was a nice reminder of all the time we had with Jurgen. Just incredible. Craig, partly agree with that, but Jan will be a superstar. Oh look, David, I don't disagree. I'd love him, but I was just given a particular question to answer in a particular way. We need two wide players. We need somebody for the left, somebody for the right. We need a CDM. We need a centre back. I just hope we don't see FSG start to cheap out again, because they've had a great summer last summer with the amount that they put into the team, even though the net was about 150 and less than Arsenal's. That's the way football's gone. If you're going to be competitive, you got to spend the money, and we can't always be the plucky underdogs. They're building up their revenues. The club 700 million in revenue this year, so we should be at the big boy table. And Mohamed Salah's wages being off the books, that'll help out as well. If Andy Robertson goes, I think he'll be tough to replace, but it's another big wage off the books. The Canade situation still one that concerns me, because again, I like consistency and we don't want too much change. Craig, did you hear that Alonso's close to committing to Liverpool? No. I don't know of any agreements behind the scenes. I'm not saying it hasn't happened. I'm just saying I don't know of it. Like I said, my last bit of information was that the club are leaning in that direction towards Alonso, but there's a big distance between the club are leaning in that direction, from my understanding, to a deal being agreed. So I certainly don't have that information to sit here and say it's done and dusted. Craig, the most important thing we need is a new manager. I agree, Paddy Wacker, mate. I agree, but let's wait and see what the club have in store for us. Simon said Gakpo's wages aren't that far off the top earners of the club either. Yeah, that's that feels a bit pricey, doesn't it, Simon? 250, is it? I think that's the number, if my memory's right. That definitely feels on the high side. No argument from me on that one, mate. Right, folks, let's keep voting. We've got 5 minutes left on the stream. We've got 820 votes. Can we get it up to 1,000? Again, we're asking, will we beat Manchester City on Saturday? Martin said Frimpong was subbed after 15 minutes. What a timing. I know, Martin. I just hope, mate, that it's nothing serious. Now, I haven't got a clue what the situation is yet, but certainly not the news we want to be hearing as Liverpool fans, especially with that position. We've struggled there all season. Who are Virgil and HUGO linked to? No problem, mate. Give me 2 seconds. So, I want to read this out as it's written so I don't misquote anyone. So this coming from Foot O'Mac said Galatasaray are eyeing up a potential move for Virgil van Dijk this summer, with their president considering him a dream move. Now, I don't think that they've a cat's chance in hell to get Virgil van Dijk this summer. I really don't. He's contracted to Liverpool for another season. He's our captain, and I just don't see a world that he'd want to leave Liverpool and move to Galatasaray. So I just think that's nonsense, to be honest. But it is out there in print. And on Ekitike, Graham Bailey said Hugo Ekitike has surged onto Real Madrid's radar following a sensational debut season at Liverpool. While they're not actively planning a move in the immediate future, the striker is being closely monitored. So yeah, Madrid and Galatasaray are the two clubs mentioned there. And then there was another story from Graham Bailey that said Liverpool are long-term admirers of Arda Güler and remain firmly in the picture should Real Madrid be open to selling the attacking midfielder this summer, which is a concrete possibility. Now, as many of you guys rightly pointed out to me in the comments from the video earlier, Güler and Szoboszlai have a little bit of previous. So I don't know if there's any truth to that or if it's possible, nor do I know how bad the ill feeling is there between them. Craig might be off topic, but have you tried Indian food? I did actually. In October, I had my first Indian meal and I didn't like it. Not because there was anything wrong with the cuisine, it's just I'm not a fan of spices really, to be honest. Fede and Harvey on the right wing. Rio, Trey, under 19. England lost. England lost? I thought they won 6-0 against Portugal, if I'm not mistaken. I swear they won 6-0 against Portugal. But Fede and Harvey on the right wing, they're not good enough on the right wing, either of them. I don't look at Harvey as a winger. I think of him more as a playmaker. More maybe a 10. But Fede will be gone in the summer. He's just, it's not worked out, unfortunately, for anybody. Abu said, as much as I love Hugo, I can see him leaving the next couple of years and selling for a nice profit. I don't know. I just want to see a season where we get to have a look at Hugo and Isak together and let them hopefully light up the Premier League next year and score a load of goals. It was 2 England under 19 teams. The main and first team, Train Rio was on it and lost and failed to qualify. 2 England under 19 teams? That's very confusing. Sorry, I just seen that they'd beaten a Portuguese team or 6-0. That's the only thing I'd seen on it. They failed to qualify. That's a shocker. Because I've seen that England team, like there's some talent in that English under 19 team. Yeah, I mean Trainioni, the kid from Arsenal, Max Dowman, Rio Ngamoa. It's just a very, very good team. Joseph said, as a Borough fan, I'd love for us to do a cheeky loan deal for Harvey when we go up. Great business. There's no chance Liverpool are going to loan Harvey Elliott again. None. They're going to want to make sure, and he's going to want to make sure he's settled as well and get a concrete fee. So, yeah, I just don't think there's any chance we're going to loan him again. United and Leeds playing Croker in the summer. Nice. Be an interesting one. No love lost between those two clubs or the sets of fans, so that'll be an interesting one. Craig, just an opinion, but I rate Kareem Alibejovic higher than Jan Diomande. Like Dom, he's been trusted to play for his country at an early age and is performing. Simon, I'm not going to lie to you, mate. I know nothing about the gentleman you've mentioned, so I'll have to take your word for it, mate. I don't know anything about him, mate. Sorry. Arian said, not going to lie, I have a feeling City will batter us. I don't know, mate. It could genuinely go any which way. But if I had to, give you a prediction on it, I don't think we're going to get through. I hope we do. I'd be very happy if we do, but I don't have that good feeling about it at the minute. Look, I'm going to say goodnight, ladies and gents, but before we do, let's finish this poll. So 66% of those that voted said that they don't think we will win at the Etihad on Saturday. Let's wait and see what happens. Look, I'll be back tomorrow. We'll have a news video in the afternoon. I'll have a late night agenda stream tomorrow night as well. And we'll build up then to the game of the weekend. The preview for that will be coming out on Thursday night. Do you think Hugo and Isak will play together? Yes, that's certainly. I've read a few pieces over the last few days that that said the plan is for a front three of, let's say, the two strikers with Wirtz in behind. But again, I'd ask where you get the width in that situation, but we'll figure it out sure over the next few months. Craig, I think Rio might be the next Mo Salah. Oh, look, he's incredible, Aryan, mate, incredible. But we do need some experience there as well as Rio, because he is still a very young player. So we need to get, we're losing experience in Mo. I think we need to bring in somebody in that 25, 26 bracket as well. Karim Aliadovic was sold to RB Salzburg from Leverkusen under 19s. Leverkusen have activated the buyback clause with 10 clubs seemingly scouting him. Nice. Thank you, Simon. Appreciate your input, sir. Really do. Right, folks. Thank you for coming in and joining me again tonight. First one back. I've enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a lovely night, and congratulations to everybody who's qualified for the World Cup, and commiserations to those that haven't. Appreciate you. We'll see you tomorrow.